It's a magnificent strike that went.
Andre Pollard sends it through.
Yo, that intro makes me nervous.
Yeah, memories of the World Cup, I reckon, especially 2023. Kickers, how many? 3 games, 1-pointers.
Yeah.
Kickers were crucial. I still feel the nervous tension of those games. My goodness. Welcome to another edition of the Box Kick Rugby Podcast for youth rugby in the UAE. And today we have a very special guest on the show. Someone who's as old as me. So our youth players might not even know him, but I reckon after the podcast, they're all going to look forward to meet him when he comes out here to do some kicking clinics. We're fortunate today. We will be interviewing Koen, former South African number 10, Springbok number 10, decorated kicking coach, Springbok kicking coach, also headed the high performance for the Springboks. Rassie Erasmus last year asked him to go and do some duties in a coaching capacity with the South African women's team, and how quickly their rise started after Louis got involved there. So whilst he can't share intimate secrets around some of the kicking things, he's going to give an interesting perspective around kicking, around the game of rugby, and really looking forward to that. So Louis is waiting for us. We'll get to that in a bit. Had a good week?
Yeah. Desk turns on Monday.
How did it go? 1
or 4 games. I think we only conceded 1 try.
Defense again.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic week of rugby. The TENS tournament at Desk, followed by the same TENS tournament format at Dubai College on Saturday. We featured the girls this week. We followed the under-19 girls at school at the TENS tournament, so we'll report on that shortly. Stefan attended that. Where's Ron?
Ron is in Morocco.
Finished Duke of Edinburgh, caused a lot of trouble and
left the country.
And producer Luke, he never participates a day before a rugby match. He's in the zone for tomorrow already.
Yeah.
Probably need to have a look at some of the kicking material we've got on this episode. So all right, let's get to it then.
Yeah.
The under-19 ladies in the Dubai English-speaking college TENS tournament that took place this week, won by Dubai College. We'll get to them. But firstly, all three of the top teams, Jumeirah English-speaking school, Desk, as well as Dubai College, fantastic rugby, quality rugby by these girls. And we saw a couple of known stars and a couple of new stars that stood out. So Sam, what did you observe on the Desk side?
So for Desk, we had Harriet Myers, we had Matilda Bortnick, Emmy Rees, and Isabel Sands. Yeah,
I mean, Emmy Rees continues to be mentioned week in, week out. She was also highlighted by one of the club coaches last week as somebody of potential. So, it would be great if we can get our podcast guest today, Louis Koen, out here, being involved with the South African women's team. Louis, you might want to pop around here and have a look at some of these girls. Then, when it came to Jess, I thought Grace Anand and let me just make sure of the last name, Hannah Homburger, stood out for me on the Jess side. Some strong defense, passion in defense, loving defense, always good to see. We always say, and not us, but the experts always say that tries win fans, but defense win trophies. And yeah, beautiful defensive performance by Jess in all the games I saw them play. Unfortunately, they couldn't get through to win the tournament. That was done by Dubai College. And superstars in that Dubai College team, Lara Shah, fantastic service as a number 9. Wow, what a pass for a young lady. Supported then by, I thought, Rachel Miller played really well in that game as well. And then stand out across all the games for them, and our box kick rugby player of the tournament for the under-19 girls, Chloe Andrews. Again, fitting to have her nominated on or mentioned on this show today, because this lady can play rugby, but she can also kick.
Yeah.
And so we're interviewing her here today, post-match, being player of the tournament, player of the match in the final, winner of the Desk 10s tournament for the under-19 girls. Here she is with Stefan. He caught up with her shortly after the game.
Okay, I'm here with the player of the tournament, Chloe Andrews. Chloe, how does it feel to win Desk 10s?
Yeah, I think guys are all so good. We played so amazingly as a team, and we're really happy.
And then obviously you guys are used to playing 7s. How does the transition to 10s impact the way you guys play?
I think it's very much of a contact, more of a game. We played in pods, but I think we really adapted really well and played well as a team. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Congrats
so
on the
much.
win.
Thank you.
And then also, Sam, I want to give a shout out to one of the referees that officiated in that under-19 girls tournament, a young man from Zimbabwe, Gabriel Masenda. And the reason I want to point out that we liked what we saw with him was because he allowed, at under-19 level, the dominant scrum to be dominant. We spoke about this 1.5 meter rule that we think needs revision. Whether that will ever happen, who knows? There might be good reasons for having it. We might not know those reasons, but it's lovely to see that when an under-19 team or a school invest in a scrum machine and the under-19s invest in scrumming and using it as a tactical weapon in a match, that it's allowed to dominate within the laws. But that was wonderful to see. So thank you to our referee for setting that example and allowing the girls who work hard in the scrums to actually dominate in a match. All right, that means we've got to move on. Quick one before we do though. What did you think of the Six Nations?
Sure.
Ireland. Nobody spoke
Ireland.
about Ireland beforehand.
Yeah.
On the podcast vote, we had England and we had France. And Ireland just came again and reminded everyone, don't forget about us. I was disappointed. I really thought this is one England's going to take them. Unfortunately not. But I hope they do win this weekend so that we can even things out a little bit. One of the most incredible lessons I think from week 1 in the Six Nations. My goodness, Antoine Dupont found a way to get even better.
Yeah.
It is scary. And also credit to Scotland. When they don't have a great day, that Scottish team historically would fall off between minute 60 and 80. They didn't this time. And so I'm quite hopeful for a very interesting weekend coming up with Scotland and England. I'm going to put my money on them. Your money this weekend?
I actually put it on England. I think England will play quite well.
Okay, well, that's rare for you. Yeah. Not the biggest English supporter that I've ever seen. So good luck to the teams this weekend. Then a background on our guest today on the podcast. He was my biggest competitor for the number 10 jersey at primary school. We were in rival primary schools, played some big derbies against each other, especially at under 13 level. Then went our separate paths in high school, and he became probably the best number 10 ever produced by Paul Gymnasium in Cape Town. Went on to represent South Africa at all age levels, represented the Stormers, the Bulls, the Lions, and I say the best in the school because until Andre Pollard emerged from exactly the same school. And we can now perhaps say Andre Pollard and Louis will have respect for that. Up until Don't know when, but at the moment, Louis' oldest son followed the same school in Handre's footsteps. And Liam Koen, Louis' son, played for the Springboks under 20s last year in the World Cup. So that school, I mean, a fly-off factory. But I walked into my first year at university and was allocated a roommate. And who was it? Louis. And I thought, this guy again. Became great friends, kicked thousands and thousands of rugby balls with him when we were supposed to be in class. And just learned so much from him and became his biggest fan. Ended up playing against him, Currie Cup match in 1999 at Newlands. And man, we had them. And in injury time, they scored a try to make it 19 all, and he had to put a kick in from the corner, and I just stood there. I said to my teammates, man, this guy's going to grill us. I've seen this a million times, and bang through the middle. And throughout his career, when you look at his kicking performance, he is phenomenal. Did it for the Stormers, did it for the Lions, did it for the Bulls, then did it for South Africa. Finished his Springbok career at the 2003 World Cup, which wasn't our best. Went and played in France for a few years, then became a decorated kicking coach, international kicking coach with the Springboks, led the high performance for the Springboks. So yeah, we're honoured to have Louis Koen spend some time with us today. And if any of you are interested to understand a little bit more around what Louis can offer students visiting South Africa at any stage, please do feel free to email us at theboxkickrugby@gmail.com. We can give you more information around how to track Louis down if and when you want to go and do any training camps for kicking in South Africa. And we are very keen to try and get Louis over here. Yeah. So expression of interest, please, if you are interested in, after this interview, to engage with Louis if and when we can get him out here to host a few kicking clinics, then again, send us your expression of interest and your age group as well. So if you're an under 8 and you want to learn about kicking from one of the best international kicking coaches in the world, then let us know so that we have your details so that we can communicate with you if and when we can get Louis out here. Before we get to the interview with Louis though, we ran a little question on the podcast this week to ask the following. How many goal kicking techniques are in existence today? And as you can see, our audience got it spot on. Over 60% said there's 3. We decided to do a little short video to explain the 3 different kinds of kicking techniques that's being observed right now. You know the names of them?
I know plant foot, kick foot, but I don't know the other one.
Well, let's quickly show people. We'll bring it up on the screen and we'll show people so that we'll all at least understand the different techniques before Louis starts talking about them. Let's have a look. So first up, the plant foot technique, or the hop technique, where you follow through and land on the foot that you planted next to the ball. Next is the hurdle kick, where the kicker will land on the same foot that he used to kick the ball with, but with a very aggressive follow through. And the final technique is where they call it the quick foot, where they also land on the same foot as what they kicked with, but they do it much faster versus the hurdle kick. And of course you have the best in the business who are able to apply all these techniques in terms of hopping or hurdling or using the quick foot down. Andre Pollard, best in the business.
Is to win the match. Will it go straight? Yes, it will. He's done it. Up over the 22. Roll away, says the referee. Dewey Swartboy is in there. Van der Westhuizen. Koen. And it goes in off. Can you believe it? The Bulls have won the game. Louis Koen has kicked the drop.
Is there a new technique in kicking for goal, or is it all the same old stuff that applies?
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for the invitation. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the kind words. I probably won't agree with all those kind words, but I'm humbled by them. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's incredible to think that, you know, we when we were young, um, we were taught in a specific way, and now there's something that crept into the woodworks that excites me, and it's something new. Originated very much with the French. I might be wrong, but I think they experimented a lot with landing on their kicking foot. Um, but that said, principle remains the same though. If the body can work through the impact zone, um, if it's by landing on your plant foot or landing on your kicking foot, if the body moves past the impact zone, you generate more power. There's no way that your body can rotate. So I think the principle of kicking through the ball, in the old days, our fathers said, you know, stay down or keep your head down, or, you know, kick through the ball, hit through the ball. If you think about golf, if you think about tennis, hit through the ball. I think that principle of transferring your weight through the ball remains the main principle. By doing it differently, I think it's fantastic. I think what Andre and the French guys have realized in my book is that there's more power generated. I always thought when I was playing, when I was kicking, the magic of getting distance in your kick was in the last step. I always said to myself, if I had a longer kick, I went back a little bit and I said to myself, now stretch that last step, because I thought that extra step would generate obviously more power through the ball because you're more aggressive, blah blah blah. So sorry to make it a long story, guys, but I truly believe that the principle, one must never forget that it's about principle. And I always say you can have a weird run up, you can have a different angle of approach, you can have a low tee, a high tee, you can put your ball upright, you can put your ball forward. The principle of getting your weight to transfer through the impact zone remains the main principle. And I think that is a key thing we must not forget here by looking at these different types of techniques, if we can say it like that. The principle remains the same.
There certainly seems to be some merit around landing on the kick foot. I think the challenge is consistency, which I know kicking with you through our university years, kicking back many balls to Louis Koen on a Sunday afternoon when everybody was recovering from a late Saturday. The one thing that always remained with me that you did better than anyone else was doing the same thing every time. 13, 14, 15-year-olds who are trying these different, should they experiment with these things? Or would you stick to one technique from the start?
I think there's definitely time to experiment if you're young. I mean, I only was really confident in my kicking when I was 27. So, you know, I really, and I say this very humbly, I was just a product of working really hard. But at the age of 27, I could really be confident to say if I put the ball down, I was really comfortable with what I was doing and I was really confident in what I was doing. Why was I confident? Because I did experiment with a lot of things when I was younger, and eventually I found something that really worked for me. And once I did found that, I just was relentless in repeating that and getting good at it. So I would really recommend, Paul, that youngsters do experiment, play around, find something that works for you. I always say every guy's got a different flow and a different rhythm and a different way he walks, a different way he swings a golf club. When I say that, I refer to tempo. Your tempo and my tempo is different. When we would swing any golf club, or kick a rugby ball. And you must not try and be somebody else. You must find your own tempo and your own rhythm. And then once you are comfortable with the way you want to do it, I think there are principles. Again, sorry if I always refer back to principles, but I'm a firm believer that there are principles in kicking. I mean, and let's take 3 or 4 of them. You know, there's maybe a little bit more, but your distance to the ball. So if you take 3 steps back or 10 steps back, it's got a huge impact in what happens at the strike zone. Your angle of approach has got a huge impact as to how open you are or how closed you are, which then influences how you strike the ball. And ball striking in my book, yes, I played with a guy in France. You won't believe me if I tell you this, but he started with his back towards the ball. He started with his back towards the ball, walked in, kicked the ball, and swung around 180 degrees and finished with his back again towards the poles. But he was 90%.
Yeah.
Because he found a rhythm and something that worked for him. And when he found that, he just repeated it over and over and over. But when I talk principles, he came in at the same angle, the same distance from the ball. He got it right to plant his plant foot at the same place and strike the ball at the same place. Now, he had no weight transfer through the ball. So just imagine the 180-degree rotation after the strike. So there was no weight transfer, but his magic was in the fact that he was same distance, same angle of approach, same strike. He got it onto his foot at exactly the same angle, so that there was no real issue with his follow through. So what I'm trying to say is, each and every one of us are not going to kick in the same way, but there are principles that will help you to become more consistent. So you can't have a 3-meter run up if you're 1.9 meters tall. You're going to struggle. So you need to find a little bit more space, if that makes sense. Your angle of approach is so important because that influences where you plant and where you strike. And then the principle we talk about when we spoke about in the beginning of the show is weight transfer. So, weight transfer, if it's on your plant foot or your kicking foot, that is the magic. The magic happens when there's weight transfer through the ball, in my humble opinion.
So when you mentioned plant foot a few times, and this is something I struggled as a kicker. Where the hell do I aim my plant foot? The kick foot part is easy because you visualize the ball. I want to kick the ball at a specific area, and I want to kick it with a specific part of my foot. And we'll get to that, which foot is best.
Yeah.
But for me, the consistency struggle was, where do I put my plant foot? So when you kicked, was it closest to the ball, or how did you approach that? And how do kickers today approach it? Is the best method to get your plant foot like aggressively in as close to the ball as you can? Or how would you advise a young kicker? Where do you aim your plant foot?
So a guide, a very simple guide, is that your plant foot must point towards the target. That is simple. If it's closed, there's going to be a natural rotation around your plant foot. If it's too open, your swinging leg or your kicking leg is going to follow. You're going to get a C shape, a rotation shape. So you want to have your plant foot as a very simple guide towards the target, towards your goalposts. I never in my head thought about where's my plant foot, because I never made an issue of it. I think when it becomes an issue is when you start seeing that you're losing power, you're pulling it to the left, or you're blocking it to the right. So once that is a consistent error, so say for example, you're pulling it to the left the whole time and you've tried everything, you've got a new tee, you've got a new distance, then I would advise, one of the last things I would look at is where is the plant foot? If the plant foot is behind the ball, okay, you're naturally going to kick it later, and there's going to be your leg is already rotated, if it makes sense. So you've already rotated, so you're striking the ball after rotation if your plant foot is behind the ball. Okay, I don't want to get too technical. If you're too close to the ball, there's no way you're going to get your hips through. So you're going to lose power and you're going to block it. So there's certain things that you can look at. You can use video analysis. You can take a couple of shots on video and analyze and see, yes, I've been pulling everything to the left. Okay, if I look at it, my plant foot is maybe a little bit too behind and too far away because now I'm dragging it, I'm reaching for it and it's going to the left. But a general guide in my book, your plant foot should be, your heel of your plant foot should be in line with the back end of the ball as a general guideline. So I'm going to say that again. The heel of your plant foot should be in line with the back of the rugby ball. Okay, that's a general guideline. And then how far away from the kicking tee? It's about your own foot size away as a general guideline. Okay. Now, I would advise that you, before you start when you walk back, okay, so you've placed the ball, you've aimed, everything is aligned. Now you put your plant foot next to the ball, your own foot size away with your heel in line with the back of the ball as a starting point. Make that your starting point and then walk back from there. If it's 5 steps or 5 and a bit or 5.5. So, and then you start working and find your rhythm, find your spacing. If you see, yes, I'm still pulling it, then try and stretch that step a little bit. Make that last step a little bit more aggressive. So that's why I believe you can play around with it and you can experiment until you find that perfect mojo. It might now be 5 steps and a little bit. I realized very late in my career, when I was about 27, that I was 5 and a little bit. I wasn't 5.5, 6 or 5. I was 5 and a little bit. And I started realizing what that little bit was for me. You know what I mean? To perfectly fit in. So once you find that spacing, that angle of approach, and that rhythm towards the ball, that slow build up, and like Andre, yes, he's got a beautiful walk into the ball. He starts slowly and he builds it up towards an explosion. It's not erratic. It's a slow, even build up towards the impact zone.